Have you ever realized the great capacity that we have for sorting things? Whether from laundry to clean to dirty, or the produce that we pick out at the grocery store, or even our friends, the ones that we keep close to us or the ones that we push further away. With all of this sorting, I imagine there's both good and bad in that. I wonder what the parable of the weeds and the wheat might tell us about this sorting in our lives.
Let's hear what Jesus said to them in this parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." The slave said to him, "Then do you want us to go and gather them?" But he replied, "No, for in gathering the weeds you would uproot the wheat along with them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I have to admit, I love weeding. I do it when I'm working in my yard around the flowers or the bushes. And a few years ago, I was trying to weed the grass in our front yard because I wanted it to look just pristine. I wanted it to look perfect. And a neighbor down the street and around the corner has a yard of Bermuda grass. And something happened so that Bermuda grass started growing in my yard. And if you know Bermuda grass, it grows in these long, low runners and with long, low roots underneath the soil. And it doesn't look good if it's mixed together with something else. Their yard looks fine. It's all Bermuda grass, but it doesn't look good in my yard. And it turns brown in the fall for the winter season when it's dormant. So I decided I was going to try to pull it out. Several days a week, I would go out there and be pulling out the Bermuda grass. And you pull out these runners. I was doing it almost to the point where I had blisters on my hand because I was working on it. One day, a repairman came to our house, and when he parked his car and got out, he said, "Lady, you know what you're doing is a dumb thing, don't you?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "You might as well be inside in the air conditioning reading a book." And I thought, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, it's a complete waste of time. You're never going to get it all out. The way the roots of the Bermuda grass go, you're never going to clear your yard. So I felt a little defeated. But at this point, I've given up on it and decided to just leave it alone because he was right. I'm much better off sitting in the air conditioning, just reading a book. So when I hear this parable, I think Jesus knew that our human tendency was going to be to want to weed things out. Perhaps even weed out our community, our faith family, our church. To look around and make judgments about who fits in, who doesn't fit in, who's worthy, who's not worthy, who deserves to be part of this community and who doesn't. It's just a human tendency. And maybe, like for me in the yard, it's about control. It's about wanting things to be my way. It's about trying to make judgments about things. And it gives us some sense of satisfaction, some sense of superiority maybe, when we can sort out the weeds from the wheat. I think about that, and Jesus told him not to do it. He even made it sound like it's dangerous because the roots are all woven together. That was certainly true in my yard. When I would pull out that Bermuda grass and pull hard and get a runner, it would go for feet across the yard and unearth all the grass around it. And maybe that's true in our community life together. Maybe when we try to pull out the weeds, we actually do some harm to the wheat. Maybe we're not that good at identifying which is which. I think about it with the seeds. You know, what kind of enemy would have put seeds of weeds into the wheat? Maybe they're hard to tell apart. Maybe the seeds all kind of look the same or at least kind of run together. I mean, when you buy seeds for your own grass, it's got all kinds of stuff in there. We don't know exactly. We can't make it perfect. And when I think about what Jesus said in this parable, I start to think about my own faith and my own life. And I've got to admit that even inside me, there's some weeds in the wheat, that the things I do, service and caring and kindness, there's a lot of mix of weeds and wheat. In my own motivation, there's mix of weeds and wheat. I'm rarely pure of heart and purely motivated. I got to admit, selfishness creeps in and wanting things my own way creeps in. So perhaps a good news in this parable is that Jesus is telling us it's not our job to do that judging. We trust that. We trust that to Him. We don't have to judge the grass. We don't have to judge our congregation. We don't have to judge our faith family. And maybe we can lighten up even on judging ourselves, knowing that Christ is the one who will judge, and that in the end, what shouldn't stay, Christ will take care of it. You don't have to do it now by uprooting everything. Despite my love of weeding, I think it's good news in this parable that Jesus is telling us, entrust ourselves to His care, and He'll sort it out in the end. Thanks be to God for that.
Our prayer and our hope for you today is that you leave with a sense of humility, knowing that we all have weeds within us mixed with the wheat. We all have wheat and weeds, dandelions and seeds, roses, briars, tulips, and more. Let us all remember that we are a part of God's creation together. Will you pray with me? Creating, nurturing, planting God, we come to you today in humility, leaving spaces for the ways in which we try to see your kingdom, as well as the ways in which we often fail to bring it here to earth. God, we often see ourselves as something great, something good, and something whole, while at the same time we put others down, seeing them as less than, broken, or as someone who makes us uncomfortable in their own brokenness. Forgive us, Lord, when we only identify with the wheat. Forgive us, Lord, when we think we are better. Forgive us, Lord, when we think it's our job to sort one another out or to cast judgment. Help us, Lord, to remember that like weeds and wheat, our roots are joined together. Help us, Lord, to remember that when we try to uproot others, we are in turn uprooting ourselves. Help us, Lord, to go forth today knowing that we are part of a vast garden of your creation, and everything in that garden is beautifully and wonderfully made according to your will. Amen.
Fire starting in our souls. There is a fire starting in our souls. Reviving this longing, you're calling us home. There is a fire starting in our souls. Church,